Hi folks. P V Narasimha Rao, the former Prime Minister of India, was awarded the Bharat Ratna a couple of days ago. This is an award that is richly deserved, and it was given to him after an unnecessarily long delay. Rao was the architect of the economic reforms that transformed India's economy from a plodding socialist basket case to the economic powerhouse that it is today. He dismantled public sector monopolies, unleashed the power of private business in India, and he broke down the walls which were isolating Indian markets from the world. He did away with the controls of the Nehruvian license Raj, and he liberalized the Indian economy, paving the way for growth that India was truly capable of but had been denied for so many decades. Rao's tenure as Prime Minister from 1991 to 1996 was truly momentous for India. What is more impressive is that he achieved all this while leading a minority government and being at the receiving end of criticism from both his own party as well as the opposition. Rao's time in office was truly tumultuous. He saw Kashmiri separatism, he saw Sikh separatism, he saw an economic crisis, and finally, the fall of the disputed Babri structure in Ayodhya. He handled all these problems with a combination of skill, cunning, experience, and diplomatic finesse acquired over decades of experience in Indian politics. By the way, if you're interested in learning more about Rao's rise to power and his background before he became Prime Minister, you can read a book that I wrote and published on Amazon in 2019. It's called P V Narasimha Rao, The Rise to Power. Here's a screenshot of that book for you. This book details his upbringing, training, his rise in politics, and his approach to tackling issues at the national level. Given that Rao's tenure had so many accomplishments to show, and that it changed the economic trajectory of the country completely, you would have thought that the Congress party would have put him on a pedestal and made him one of its icons, but it did not. On the contrary, the party distanced itself from him and downplayed his achievements. Why did they do that? Let's find out. Well, for starters, Rao's economic reforms turned Nehruvian economics on its head. All the Congress party leaders suddenly saw Nehru's economics being thrown out the window. They had made poverty a virtue for decades and campaigned for the people using socialist economics as their bedrock. And suddenly they saw the ground shift beneath their feet. It was not just the opposition complaining that Rao's policies were policies for the rich. The Congress party was complaining about his policies as well. Although Rao's policies were the right policy at the right time for the country, both Sonia Gandhi and her cohort in the Congress party were distinctly unhappy with the radically new direction that Rao was taking the country in. Rao also initiated efforts to try and break the party's dynastic model, which also had plagued it for over 20 years. And he wanted to try to make the Congress party a more normal political party. It had not held organizational elections since 1973. And during that intervening period between 1973 and the early 90s, 1991, 92, when he tried to organize organizational elections, Rajiv Gandhi, Sanjay Gandhi, and their mother Indira Gandhi had basically treated the party as their own family organization. No other leaders were allowed to head it. The other change that Narasimha Rao wanted to bring about was to separate the posts of Prime Minister and Congress Party President. This was quite a radical change for a party that was used to being led by one member of a specific family, regardless of whether that person was eminently qualified for the role or not. And the senior leaders of the party were expected to behave deferentially towards that person leading the party. So Rao convened a session of the All India Congress Committee in 1992 in the town of Tirupati in Andhra Pradesh with this goal in mind, this goal of normalizing the Congress party and freeing it from the clutches of dynastic rule. Second, Rao also made an effort to sideline the bureaucrats and some of the senior politicians who had been loyal to Rajiv Gandhi. Now, Rao had a couple of rivals who had battled him for the post of prime minister, and they were none too happy with the way these developments were going. Sonia Gandhi was surrounded by a coterie of her loyalists at the time, and they were not happy either. So Rao knew he had stepped into a role which was normally reserved for a member of the Gandhi family. So he knew that he had to keep Sonia Gandhi on his side. So with this end in mind, He used to meet with her fairly frequently for the first couple of years that he was in office. In 1993, he stopped doing this. He felt more secure in office and he didn't feel the need to constantly report what was going on to that coterie anymore. This led to quite a bit of heartburn, and it also gave Rao's detractors the opportunity to criticize him with the party leadership and the family. Things got so bad that Sonia Gandhi even accused Rao publicly of slowing down the investigation into the Rajiv Gandhi assassination. This is when the relationship between Rao and Sonia Gandhi turned rather chilly. The issue that really did Rao in was the fall of the disputed Babri structure in Ayodhya. Rao was a Sanatani raised in a Hindu household. He had spoken publicly of his desire to see a Ram temple and a mosque on the same site in Ayodhya. So, in the days leading up to the fall of the structure, he held extensive discussions with all parties involved. He used his political finesse to discuss the issue with political leaders. He used his Hindu background to discuss the issue with the sadhus and the BJP. He held meetings with the Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs. He invited his political rivals to a series of meetings, well aware that they wanted to use this Babri issue to oust him from power. So he wanted to make decisions collectively. Kalyan Singh, the BJP Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, had committed to Rao that he would not let the disputed Babri structure be harmed in any way. Rao also committed 75 companies of the Central Reserve Police Force to Ayodhya to assist Kalyan Singh in law enforcement if needed. Ultimately, they were not used. Some people think that Rao should have imposed president's rule in Uttar Pradesh to keep the Babri structure from being harmed. The thing is that Rao was a strict constitutionalist. He knew that he could not impose president's rule preemptively in a state. He could only do it if the constitutional machinery in the state actually broke down. In addition, the Uttar Pradesh state governor was not recommending the imposition of president's rule at the time. He knew that if he imposed president's rule, it would probably be struck down by the Supreme Court, and it could also have the effect of actually precipitating violence instead of preventing it. The bottom line is that this was a no-win situation for Rao. The Congress had already lost ground with both the Hindus and the Muslims before 1992. So once this Babri incident happened, they were desperate to distance themselves from him and try to maintain their secular image. As the Congress party's position weakened across the country, Rao was not even given a ticket to contest the next Lok Sabha election. The Congress eventually tried to portray Manmohan Singh as the architect of the economic reforms. But let's be clear, the economic reforms were Rao's policy. Manmohan Singh was an economist, and he was a functionary who was carrying out policy positions that were set by Rao. Manmohan Singh had neither the political skill nor acumen required to shepherd these laws and changes through parliament. It was Rao who did all that, and it was Rao who provided Manmohan Singh with a shield as he faced a barrage of criticism from his party and the members of the opposition in implementing the economic reforms. When Rao passed away in New Delhi after a long illness, he was not given a state funeral in New Delhi. His body was not allowed to lie in state at the Congress headquarters in New Delhi. The fear probably was that a funeral or a memorial to him in New Delhi would deepen the association between him and the Congress party at the time. And this was not something that the party wanted. When the Congress party celebrated its 125th anniversary in 2009, there was no mention of him among the prime ministers that had come from that party. He was effectively erased from the Congress party's record. Rao had already been made a scapegoat by the Congress party for the Babri incident. What is more amazing is that Manmohan Singh, in the year 2019, also made Rao the scapegoat for the 1984 anti-Sikh riots which happened across the country in the wake of Indira Gandhi's assassination. Manmohan Singh spoke at a function to celebrate the 100th birth anniversary of a former Prime Minister, Inder Kumar Gujral. At that function, he said that Gujral had told him that if Narasimha Rao had imposed stricter measures and called in the army when the riots broke out after Indira Gandhi's assassination, that the violence could have been quelled and Sikh lives would not have been lost. Now, Manmohan Singh seems to have overlooked the fact that Rajiv Gandhi had taken over in the immediate aftermath of Indira Gandhi's unfortunate assassination. Rajiv Gandhi had taken over as Prime Minister, and a decision to call in the army cannot be taken by the Home Minister. It is a cabinet level decision which has to be taken at the highest level of the government. Now, clearly, this was another clumsy attempt to scapegoat Rao and to shield the Congress and the family from the blame that had been directed at it for so long. The reality is that the conviction of senior Congress figures like Sajjan Kumar tells a completely different story. In Rao's centenary year, a couple of years ago, there were some mildly positive remarks made about him by some in the Congress leadership. But no national level Congress leader has ever visited his memorial in Hyderabad, where he was finally cremated. Why should Indians care about this today? You see, Rao was against dynasty politics, and he made every effort to root it out in the Congress party. Many Congress leaders have left in the recent past. Jyotiraditya Scindia, Murli Devara, Jitendra Prasada, they have all left. But this doesn't seem to have made a difference in that party, which goes along the same route that it used to. And the problem is that when a political party is more focused on promoting the interests of certain personalities over the interests of citizens who vote for it, that is a real issue for the country. This approach is going to do incalculable harm to the Congress party in the long run. The fact that Rao is disrespected by the Congress party is telling in itself. And the fact that they made him a scapegoat for the Babri incident is extremely unfortunate. The reality is the fate of that structure in Ayodhya was sealed in the 80s when Hindus were first allowed to pray there. That set in motion a whole chain of events which finally culminated in the events of December 1992. Rao made every effort that he could to save that structure, but the unfortunate reality is that things went a different way. The Congress party has relegated Rao to a footnote as part of its strategy of using vote bank politics. I think this is an indication of just how disconnected it is from the reality of its electoral position, as can be seen from the last two parliamentary elections. I hope things turn around for this party at some point and its leaders realize how they're actually harming themselves by adopting positions like this. As far as P V Narasimha Rao's legacy is concerned, it's clear that he will go down in history as one of India's greatest prime ministers. The Bharat Ratna is proof of that. If you like the material I shared today, please consider giving this video a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Until next time, take care.